Hey, Brian, you had some big contributions yesterday from rookies. How important is that to the overall development of your team and the long-term future?
Yeah, well, we're focused on obviously this week, but those guys did a good job. They've done a good job preparing. Fox was in there at the end of the game, when there was a minute and whatever, the play that Kayvon had. Our coaches try to do the best job they can of developing these players, wherever they were selected, however they got here. They've been doing a good job. I think our rookie development program is good for off-the-field stuff with Ashley Lynn. And I think it's definitely important to develop, all your players, Bob, but particularly the young players as the season goes on. The more they gain good experience, I think that helps in the long run.
Is it harder to do that when you're winning because the winning becomes the thing more than anything? Or does it make it easier because it's developing a part of the culture?
One more time on the question.
Is it harder because you're winning,
harder
to
for what?
Young guys, or does it become part of their culture, and does that become a really good thing?
Do you mean like harder to play them?
Yes.
Yeah. No. No, we try to put the best guys out there that we think can help us win, and those guys have certainly earned the right to play. Whether you're a rookie or a 10-year vet, what we try to do is, give the opportunities to the guys that have earned them. And, again, I think that obviously playing young players, that helps in the long run.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ryan Dunleavy.
Ryan, you're on. I can't hear you.
Hey, you got me?
Yep, gotcha.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Two for you. Thibodeau, you weren't in the locker room yet. You were probably at the podium. But his teammates actually gave him a big ovation in the locker room. It was kind of a cool scene when media huddled around him. What does that say about a guy who obviously came in high draft status, big contract, and it seems like his teammates really like him? Maybe a sense of egolessness or whatnot. What does that say about Thibodeau?
I think Thibodeau's been, he's been good since he's been here. He's a very humble person. He loves the game of football. He had to fight through some stuff, obviously injury-wise, but, he's very attentive in meetings. He asks good questions. I think the players have a lot of respect for him. And, he got his first sack there at a critical time. So it's good to see the guys happy for him.
And then the other one is, the last two games, you guys have given up 8 scores, 4 field goals, 4 touchdowns. And the ensuing drive, your offense has scored 6 of the 8 times. So basically, when you guys are getting punched, you're punching back. I'm wondering if there's anything to that. Like, is that just a coincidence? Or is there something to you guys having your best drives on offense after you give up a score on defense, whether that's the players, the coaches doing something different? What do you attribute that to?
I think good execution. Again, you can't focus on the scoreboard or what's happening with the other side of the ball either way or in the kicking game. You have to go out there and, be prepared and ready to go and execute. And those guys, and along with Kafka calling the plays, have done a good job with that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Jordan Renan.
Hey, Brian, what's going on?
Hey, Jordan.
Did you get out of this game without any serious injuries? And I'll start there for a second.
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna meet with these guys after I do our meeting right now, and but I think we should be in fairly good shape.
And with Wandale, we obviously saw he's coming back. It was his first game back. He only played 14 snaps. How much more can he be involved in the offense, and what can he give you long-term here?
I'm just worried about this week. Hopefully we can get some more reps out of him. We'll see where he's at after I talk to Ronnie and those guys. I think we had a plan going into this game, and we'll play him, hopefully a little bit more this week.
And is it Saquon obviously banged up his shoulder a little bit? It's something he dealt with the previous week. How can you guys maybe help him moving forward? I mean, Have you thought about potentially resting him during the week, things like that? And is that something that is even on your radar at this point?
Yeah, I think regardless of what player it is, obviously Saquon touches the ball, gets a lot of playing time. We always talk about that stuff, Jordan. We'll cross that bridge when we get to Wednesday here. We'll have some conversations about it. But Saquon's he's a tough customer.
Paul Schwartz.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, I want to ask you a little bit about expectations. I know you don't consider any kind of outside expectations for your team, but inside, first of all, are you the kind of coach that addresses records, standings, division, conference with your team? I know other coaches, kind of put that up there on the board. Here's where we are, that kind of thing. And if you don't do it now, do you think you may do it at some point, later in the season?
No, I think the big thing for us is just focus on what we can control, which is each day, and get ready for the team we're about to play, which is Jacksonville in this case. Have a good work day, prepare the right way. That's where our focus will always be.
Just an offshoot of that, obviously expectations rise outside the building, when you have a 5-1 record. I know you try to keep that outside the building, but do you think that can affect players either positively or negatively as far as they start believing, you know what I mean? That 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, that we are a good team, and if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to be an even better team as opposed to losing and wondering what the heck's going on.
Yeah, I'd say our focus just is really what we need to do each week. Again, it's probably not the flashiest of answers, but it's the truth. We just focus on the things we need to do, which is make sure we understand what we need to do as a team, first and foremost, and study our opponents. Go out there, practice well. Put everything you have into the week leading up to the game, and then if you do that, you can live with the results. If you're doing things right during the week and putting everything you have into it, your preparation, coaching staff, support staff, players, trainers. There's only one game a week, obviously, and it's not many of these things. So everything we got each week, and that's really where we focus.
Players can gain confidence by success, though, can't they?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I think that's a better question for those guys. But, one week really has nothing to do with the next. Again, it's a humbling league. You're 1 week from falling off a cliff, really. You have to, it takes a lot of effort, obviously, and preparation and time to put into it. And, you have to play very well to give yourself an opportunity to win. Because it's such a tough league.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Yep, you got it.
Art Stapleton.
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
Good, Art. How are you?
Good. I was thinking in terms of player development. When you go back, I know it's going back months, but you talked about preparing for the season, kind of digging into film. I think of Saquon, where you said you guys went back to Penn State film, looked at stuff that he did well there, and try to coach that up and work that into your offense. Did you do that across the board with your players? Because thinking of guys who returned from last year, Julian Love or an O'Shane Zimenez, did you have your position coaches kind of dig up tape when those guys were coming out and kind of develop plans for each individual player?
I'd say we looked at all the tape here. Obviously, Saquon with his talent, he's an unbelievable player. Was in college, and you want to get a feel for how to use what was good back in the day for him. What was good his rookie year, what happened the previous couple of years. I'd say all our coaches, did extensive study on all the guys that were potentially on our roster. Going all the way back, most of these guys evaluated them coming out of school, so there's some recollection there. And then, watch them play. Again, the best thing, Art, obviously now is, with, the OTAs, the training camp, and now these games, whether they're in your system and you see their movement skills and you understand, some of their strengths and some of their weaknesses. I think that's really the best thing for all of us. And then once you figure out what they do well in your system, if it's, if you got to adjust and adapt as a coach, that's what you do.
Thanks.
Yep, you got it.
Pat Leonard.
Hey, Brian, just curious, why did Jihad Ward not play on the last two defensive series of the game?
That's the package we had in, I thought. And he was excited. He was the first one jumping up and down on the sideline, which we showed. So just our rotation.
We have time for 2 more. Tom Rock.
Brian, just to get back to Saquon's injury a little bit, he came off the field there for, I think it was one play and came right back in. Is that just something you're going to have to deal with throughout this season now if he lands on it wrong or gets it twisted or whatever happens, that he's just going to have to come off to the sideline, kind of get squared away and go back in?
I mean, if it happens, yeah, I can't tell you what's going to happen or not. I think, each week you get a little bit better. Like I said, he's a pretty tough guy, and he'll get his treatment, and he'll be ready to go.
Did you come into this season? So you look at the teams that are 5-1, 6-0, and most of them are quarterback-driven offenses. Did you come into this season believing that a running back-driven offense could succeed in this league, or has this convinced you?
Yeah, I don't really think of it like that, Tom. I understand the question. I think you just develop your team as you go and do what you need to do to try to win each week, whether that's hand it off, a bunch, whether it's throw it a bunch. Obviously, we've been obviously heavy on the run side, but I don't think about it as it's a pass offense or run offense. I just think each week there's things you need to try to do to win the game, and that's what we'll try to do.
Last one here, Dan Duggan.
Hey, Brian, you guys have obviously had some really creative plays. I'm just curious, where do you come up with these? I'm thinking of the direct snap to Saquon, and he gives it to Daniel, or the pass to Breda. How do you come up with them, and what's the process like from, you guys in the coaches' offices? It must be coming up with them and then getting them onto the field and having confidence they'll work because they're so unconventional.
A lot of these we've run at some point in time. Some we haven't. I'd say I give credit to the offensive coaches. There's a lot of meetings, as you know. I'd say Mike is pretty creative, but so are all the other coaches on the staff, and I think there's really good give and take in the meetings when they're meeting. Again, whatever personnel groups we use, or the people that are active, you try to find a role for them. It might be only a few plays, it might be a little bit more, but I'd say there's a lot of discussion, that starts after you start watching the opponent and get into game plan here the next few days. And just, again, going back to what I think Tom asked, just trying to do what we think we need to do to give ourselves a chance. Really no more than that.
Is it a little bit fun, though? I mean, you can drive inside zone, but when you can come up with a play like that and see it work, is that a little bit part of the fun for you guys?
It's fun if it works. Yeah, but if it doesn't work, it's not real fun.